You've been conditioned to dread it. The quiet apartment after everyone leaves, the Saturday night without plans or company, the weekend looming with only silence and your own presence. Society has taught you to view this as a flaw. Loneliness is framed as an illness to heal, solitude as an issue to fix, and being alone as proof that something is inherently wrong with you. But what if that narrative is false? What if the thing you've been taught to fear is actually your greatest strength? What if that empty space isn't a cage, but a haven? What if the quiet isn't a penalty, but a form of freedom? You sense it sometimes, don't you? In those fleeting moments when the world's demands fade, when your phone is silent and responsibilities pause, there's a subtle stirring, something that feels almost rebellious. That feeling threatens the system that thrives on keeping you distracted, reliant, and constantly seeking external connection, the system that benefits from your inability to sit with your own thoughts. Tonight we step into uncharted territory, a place they don't want you to explore, the private sanctuary of your independent mind. Friedrich Nietzsche grasped a truth society has long obscured. Solitude isn't the lack of connection, it's the embrace of self. While the masses clung to what he called herd mentality, chasing validation and purpose from the crowd, Nietzsche ventured alone into the vastness of his own mind. He realized that history's greatest thinkers, most creative souls, and most revolutionary figures shared one trait: they were unafraid to be alone. Nietzsche wrote that higher individuals stand apart from the rest by their courage to confront themselves. Yet today's world has flipped this entirely. Now, fearlessness is equated with endlessly scrolling through others' lives, courage with a packed social calendar, and strength with avoiding your own thoughts. This shift is deliberate. Nietzsche saw that true strength lies in what he called self-overcoming, but you can't overcome what you won't face, transform what you won't explore, or become what you won't envision. All of this demands something the system can't offer, replicate, or replace: time spent with yourself. In his Solitude, Nietzsche conceived the idea of the Übermensch, the person who transcends the need for external approval, groupthink, or others' rules. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. The Übermensch isn't a distant philosophical ideal, it's who you become when you stop fearing your own company. They've dismantled solitude through countless small attacks. They convinced you boredom is an adversary. Every quiet moment must be filled, every pause productive, every silence interrupted. Your phone became a barrier to your thoughts, social media a numbing agent against reflection, and constant connectivity a shield from the risky terrain of your inner world. They crafted what Nietzsche might call a slave mentality around solitude. Being alone was labeled selfish, enjoying your own company antisocial, and choosing solitude a sign of brokenness. One must have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche wrote. But chaos needs room to unfold, stars need darkness to glow, and creation requires emptiness to grow. The system can't permit this. Meditation apps offer guided thoughts because they fear what you might discover unguided. Social platforms promise connection because they dread what you might uncover in disconnection. Entertainment devices provide distraction because they know what emerges in stillness. You start to remember who you are. You begin to question what you've been taught. You notice the divide between your true desires and the artificial wants they've sold you. You feel the distance between your authentic voice and the collective chant they've trained you to echo. That's when you become a threat, not to others, but to the framework that relies on your immersion in collective unconsciousness, to the attention economy that demands your constant engagement, to the politics of fear that feeds on your reliance. But when you embrace solitude as a sacred act, rather than a shameful state, something shifts. Your thoughts move from background noise to a symphony in the foreground. The clamor of others' opinions fades, and your own voice becomes clear. In solitude, you uncover what Nietzsche called your will to power, not dominance over others, but mastery of yourself. The ability to shape your thoughts, direct your energy, and craft your reality from within. You start to see the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection from others. Solitude is the empowering connection to yourself. Loneliness drives you to seek any company. Solitude makes you discerning about who you allow into your space. An alchemical transformation begins. What the world called weakness becomes strength. Your sensitivity turns into insight, your introversion into depth, your need for space into sovereignty. You stop apologizing for turning down invitations, feeling guilty for enjoying your own presence, or treating solitude as a fallback. Instead, you recognize it as the main event. In the quiet, things unfold that can't in the noise. Creative ideas emerge like stars at twilight. Solutions to problems rise effortlessly. The next version of yourself takes form in the expanse of uninterrupted existence. You see why Nietzsche spent so much time alone in the Swiss Alps, why visionaries across history needed isolation, why breakthroughs require breaking away. Now you understand why they fear your solitude. Someone who can be alone doesn't crave constant entertainment. Someone who cherishes their own company doesn't need endless consumption to feel whole. Someone who finds meaning in silence doesn't need to devour information relentlessly. You become a threat to their economy. Your attention isn't for sale. Your time isn't open for exploitation. Your energy isn't funneled into systems that never served you. It goes beyond economics. Someone who embraces solitude can't be swayed by fear of abandonment, controlled by promises of belonging, or managed by threats of exclusion. You become a political threat. The politics of fear rely on your dread of being alone, of standing apart. But when solitude becomes a refuge rather than a punishment, when being different feels like liberation rather than banishment, their strongest tools lose their power. Nietzsche saw that those who master solitude become what he called free spirits, people who think independently because they're at ease with independence, who stand alone because they've learned it often means standing in truth, and truth, as you're finding, is the most dangerous thing of all. Once you experience the freedom of your own thoughts, beliefs, and path, you can't return to the comfort of collective conformity. So how do you turn empty time into a powerful space? How do you move from tolerating aloneness to embracing solitude? First, break the addiction to constant stimulation. Dedicate time each day to what Nietzsche might call productive stillness. No phone, no music, no podcasts, no books, just you and whatever emerges in the quiet. At first, it will feel uneasy. Your mind will race. Your body will fidget. This is withdrawal from the drug of distraction. Let it unfold without rushing to fix or fill it. Second, practice what Nietzsche called eternal recurrence in your solitude. Ask yourself, if I had to relive this life endlessly, what would I change? What would I keep? What feels true versus what feels performative? Solitude offers the space to answer honestly. Third, engage in what Nietzsche called philosophical experimentation. Use your alone time to challenge everything you've been taught, not with skepticism, but with curiosity. What if the opposite were true? What if there's another way? What if the experts are mistaken? Solitude becomes a laboratory for thought experiments that can't happen amid others' opinions and judgments. Fourth, cultivate what Nietzsche called amor fati, loving your fate. In solitude, you can accept your life as it is while working to transform it. This paradox only makes sense in the quiet, where contradictions can coexist without resolution. Finally, pursue what Nietzsche saw as the ultimate aim of philosophical work, becoming who you are. Not the person your family wants, society expects, or your past defines, but the person you are beneath the layers of conditioning, performance, and adaptation. This is the treasure hidden in solitude, the pearl formed through the discomfort of being alone long enough to discover yourself. Then, something changes. Solitude stops being something you tolerate and becomes something you safeguard. The empty apartment turns from a prison into a palace, the quiet evening from a punishment into a privilege. You realize you're not antisocial, you're selectively social. You're not missing out, you're opting out. You're not lonely, you're whole. This wholeness unsettles those who rely on others for their sense of self. Your ease in solitude reflects their dependence on company. Your peace in aloneness reveals their anxiety in connection. You've become what Nietzsche envisioned a dangerous individual, not because you harm others, but because you've stopped harming yourself, not because you reject connection, but because you choose it from completeness, not need. The system that thrives on your insecurity finds you unprofitable. The culture that feeds on your desperation discovers you're no longer craving what it offers. You move through the world differently now. Social events become choices, not duties. Relationships become intentional, not desperate. Solitude becomes a sanctuary you return to, not a punishment you flee. Others notice. They can't pinpoint what's changed, but they feel it. Some are inspired by your self-assurance. Others are unsettled by your independence. Both reactions confirm you've found something authentic. Here's what Nietzsche knew, that the modern world has forgotten. The ultimate rebellion isn't opposing the system. It's becoming so whole that the system becomes irrelevant. When you're truly content alone, you're no longer controlled by fear of abandonment. When you find meaning in solitude, you're no longer swayed by promises of belonging. When you create your own purpose, you're no longer reliant on external validation. This is the emergence of what Nietzsche called the higher human, not better than others, but elevated above the need for others to complete you, not superior for judging those who haven't found this freedom, but free because you've stopped judging yourself for needing it. Your solitude becomes a revolutionary act, not one of protest or conflict, but of quiet personal sovereignty, not the violent dismantling of external systems, but the gentle reclaiming of your inner authority. This revolution ripples outward. Others see that being alone doesn't break you, that solitude can be chosen, that you can be complete without constant connection. Your example gives them permission to explore their own relationship with aloneness. Your peace in solitude gives them courage to face their own company. This is how the world changes, not through mass movements or collective efforts, but through individuals who've done the inner work of becoming whole, who love themselves enough to cherish their own presence, who've discovered the transformative power of solitude. You arrived feeling ashamed of your aloneness. You leave understanding the strength of your solitude. You came believing something was wrong with you for not needing constant company. You depart, knowing your ability to be alone is one of your greatest assets. The world will keep trying to convince you that fulfillment lies outside yourself, that meaning must be shared to be real, that solitude is something to escape, but you know better now. You've tasted the freedom of befriending your own mind, felt the power of self-possession, experienced the rare gift of being content in your own presence. This makes you a threat to every system that demands your conformity, every structure that profits from your insecurity, and that's exactly what you're meant to be. The question isn't whether you can handle being alone, it's whether the world can handle you being whole. Now go and find out. Reclaim your solitude. Embrace your sovereignty. Become the dangerous individual Nietzsche knew was within you, the one who doesn't need the world's approval to exist, who has found the ultimate treasure themselves. In the comments below, write, "I embrace the strength of solitude." Let's see how many are ready to claim what's always been theirs. Your aloneness isn't a flaw in your design. It's a feature, and it's time to stop apologizing for it.